When most people think of Jamaica, they picture the perfect paradise, golden beaches, turquoise waves brushing the shore, and the mellow rhythm of reggae drifting through the air. You see the sunshine, the laughter, and the unmistakable sound of Bob Marley's voice carrying peace and positivity across the world. But what if I told you that behind this image of calm beauty lies a country of remarkable invention, an island that has quietly shaped the world in ways few ever imagined? Because Jamaica isn't just about beaches and beats. It's a place where creativity, resilience, and bold ideas have transformed how the world vacations, how armies fight, how music sounds, and even how science tastes. This little island has had a bigger impact on global innovation than countries hundreds of times its size. Today, we're going on a journey through 7 incredible Jamaican inventions and ideas that changed the world forever. Each story reveals not just brilliance, but the soul of a nation that never stops creating. So, before we dive in, hit that subscribe button and stay till the end, because what you're about to discover will completely change how you see Jamaica. Let's start with something you've probably experienced, or at least dreamed about: the all-inclusive vacation. You know, that magical idea where you pay once and then forget about your wallet? Your meals, your drinks, your entertainment, all covered. No calculating tips, no extra bills. Just you, the ocean, and complete peace of mind. Most travelers assume this modern concept came from Europe or North America. But the truth is, it was Jamaica that reimagined it and gave it to the world. The story begins in the 1970s with one visionary man, Abe Issa. Abe Issa, often called the father of Jamaican tourism, owned the famous Tower Al Hotel in Ocho Rios. At that time, Caribbean tourism was still in its early days. Visitors loved the beaches, but found the experience unpredictable. Meals were paid separately, entertainment was hit or miss, and guests constantly reached into their wallets. Issa thought differently. He wondered, what if visitors could truly relax? What if a single payment could unlock a world of joy, comfort, and romance? So in 1978, Issa turned his hotel into something revolutionary. The world's first couples-only, all-inclusive resort. Guests could eat, drink, snorkel, watch shows, and dance under the stars without ever worrying about extra costs. It wasn't just a vacation anymore. It was a feeling of complete freedom. Issa's innovation changed everything. Visitors described it as paradise made simple. The idea spread like wildfire. And then came a man who took Issa's model and elevated it to a global empire, Gordon "Butch" Stewart. Butch Stewart, a Jamaican entrepreneur with a magnetic personality and a perfectionist's eye for detail, launched Sandals Resorts in 1981. He believed luxury didn't have to feel stiff or foreign. It could feel like home, like love. Stewart added gourmet dining, world-class service, spa retreats, and beachfront villas built for romance. He didn't just sell hotel rooms. He sold experiences, emotions, and memories. Stewart's concept exploded worldwide. Within a decade, all-inclusive became the new definition of luxury travel, inspiring resorts across Mexico, the Dominican Republic, and even Europe. Yet few realize it all started on a small Caribbean island driven by the simple dream of making people happy. That one idea turned Jamaica into a global trendsetter in hospitality and gave the world a blueprint for relaxation. The island didn't just redefine vacations. It redefined how the world thinks about comfort and connection. But while Jamaica was teaching the world how to relax, its ancestors had once taught the world something far more intense: how to fight and win against impossible odds. And that takes us to our next invention, one that rewrote the rules of warfare itself. Long before the term guerrilla warfare was coined, long before military schools taught about asymmetrical tactics or jungle combat, Jamaica's Maroons were already living and mastering it. Let's rewind to the 18th century. The British Empire was one of the most powerful forces on the planet, controlling vast colonies, commanding fleets, and enforcing dominance through military might. But in the rugged Blue Mountains of Jamaica, a small group of escaped Africans decided that no empire, no army, No gun could break their spirit. They were the Maroons, communities of formerly enslaved Africans who had escaped the plantations and built independent settlements deep within the island's mountains and forests. Living off the land, they became masters of their environment, using the jungle itself as their shield and sword. Their most iconic leader was Queen Nanny, a warrior, strategist, and spiritual figure whose name still commands respect across Jamaica. Under her leadership, the Maroons didn't just fight. They revolutionized the very concept of warfare. They studied the land's every secret, the streams, the ridges, the caves, and turned them into natural fortresses. They used surprise, ambushes, camouflage, and stealth to strike at British soldiers who were unfamiliar with the terrain. They communicated through the Abe Issa, a hollowed-out cow horn used to send coded signals across the mountains, warning of attacks or summoning fighters. This wasn't just rebellion, it was psychological warfare. The British soldiers never knew when or where the Maroons would strike next. Every rustle of leaves could mean danger. Every shadow could hide a warrior. And the unthinkable happened. The British couldn't win. Despite their superior weapons and numbers, they were forced to negotiate. By the 1730s, the British Empire, known for conquering nations, signed peace treaties with the Maroons, granting them land and autonomy. It was a moment that stunned the world. A group of self-liberated Africans had beaten the mightiest army on Earth using strategy, intelligence, and the power of their environment. Centuries later, military historians would call it asymmetrical warfare. But the truth is, its roots trace back to Jamaica, to the mountains of St. Thomas, Trelawney, and Portland, where freedom was carved out through courage and innovation. The Maroon tactics would later inspire revolutions far beyond Jamaica, from Haiti's independence movement to African anti-colonial struggles and Latin American resistance campaigns. What they created wasn't just a military strategy, it was a symbol of liberation. And while their war for freedom reshaped history, Jamaica's story of innovation was only beginning. Because, only a century later, this same island would surprise the world again. Not with a weapon, but with an engineering marvel that changed how people and goods moved across the Caribbean. When you think about the world's early railways, you probably picture the smoky engines of 19th century England or the vast railroads that tamed the American West. But long before most of the Caribbean even dreamed of trains, Jamaica was already laying down steel tracks across its lush hills and valleys. In 1845, just 20 years after Britain's first railway, Jamaica launched one of the earliest rail systems in the entire Western Hemisphere. Only the United States and Cuba built theirs earlier. For a small colony thousands of miles away from Europe, that was astonishing. The visionaries behind this transformation were two brothers, William and David Smith, who recognized how rail transport could revolutionize Jamaica's economy. At the time, the island's economy relied on sugar, bananas, and other agricultural goods, but the mountainous interior made moving crops from farms to ports painfully slow. Roads were poor, and travel could take days. The Smith brothers envisioned iron rails cutting through the island's rough terrain, a system that could carry both goods and people swiftly between parishes. And so, in 1845, Jamaica's first train line officially opened, connecting Kingston, the island's capital, to Spanish Town, and later extending all the way to Angels and St. Catherine. That inaugural journey was more than just a ride. It was a national event. Crowds gathered along the tracks, children waved, and locals marveled at the massive steam engine, its whistle echoing through the cane fields. For many Jamaicans, it was their first encounter with industrial technology and a symbol that the island could keep pace with the world's great powers. The railway soon became the backbone of Jamaica's economy, transporting goods, linking towns, and creating jobs. It wasn't just steel on land. It was a lifeline connecting people, ideas, and possibilities. Over the decades, Jamaica's railway expanded to support the bauxite and banana industries and helped shape communities along its path. Trains became part of everyday life, a moving rhythm across the island that mirrored its progress. Although public services were eventually suspended in the 1990s due to financial challenges, The railway remains one of Jamaica's most overlooked achievements, proof that even in the 19th century, this small island was a technological leader in the region. But Jamaica's legacy of invention didn't stop with engineering, because the island's next global gift wasn't mechanical, it was edible. And it began with a doctor, a cocoa plant, and a surprising taste discovery that would sweeten the entire world. Few people sipping a glass of creamy chocolate milk realize that its story begins not in Europe, but in the tropical fields of Jamaica. In the late 1600s, an Irish botanist and physician named Sir Sloane arrived on the island to serve as a doctor. Curious and observant, Sloane immersed himself in Jamaica's natural world, studying its plants, herbs, and native foods. One day, locals offered him a traditional drink, a mix of cocoa and water, derived from the practices of the indigenous Taino and influenced by African traditions brought through the Atlantic slave trade. Sloane tasted it and found it nearly undrinkable. It was thick, bitter, and far from the sweet flavor Europeans expected. But instead of rejecting it, he began experimenting. He added milk and sugar, adjusting the balance until something magical happened. The bitterness disappeared, replaced by a smooth, rich, and comforting sweetness. That was the moment chocolate milk was born. When Sloane returned to England, he took the recipe with him, marketing it as a medicinal drink, Sir Sloane's milk chocolate. Soon, it caught on among London's wealthy class, who adored it as both a health remedy and a luxury indulgence. Eventually, chocolate manufacturers like the Cadbury brothers adapted the idea for mass production, creating the milk chocolate bars we enjoy today. So, every time you sip a glass of chocolate milk or unwrap a bar of creamy chocolate, you're tasting a centuries-old Jamaican innovation. The island's natural cocoa, mixed with Sloane's curiosity and Jamaican creativity, produced a flavor that conquered the world. And that's the beauty of Jamaica's story. Invention here doesn't always look like machines or technology. Sometimes it's found in the blending of cultures, ideas, and flavors, where a simple experiment can redefine global taste. From the mountains where the Maroons fought to the cocoa fields where chocolate milk was born, Jamaica's creativity never stopped evolving. And soon, that same spirit would take on a new rhythm, one that would echo across continents, spark global movements, and redefine how the world listens to music. Because up next, we enter the heart of Kingston, where speakers roared, crowds danced, and a new cultural revolution began. Now let's turn up the volume and step into the noisy, electrifying streets of Kingston, Jamaica, the birthplace of one of the most powerful cultural movements in modern history. Because before hip-hop, before EDM, before the nightclub DJ became a global superstar, there was Jamaica. After World War II, life on the island was tough but full of energy. People were rebuilding, hustling, and finding joy in the rhythm of music. But there was a problem. Formal entertainment venues were limited, and most working-class Jamaicans couldn't afford to attend fancy dance halls or clubs. So, they decided to create their own. That's when the sound system was born, a Jamaican invention that would eventually reshape global music. These sound systems were massive mobile setups of speakers, amplifiers, and turntables mounted on trucks or hand-built platforms. They would pull up in neighborhoods, open spaces, and yards, blasting American R&B, ska, and later reggae in the night air. It wasn't just about playing records. It was about creating a community. DJs, known locally as selectors, became the heartbeat of the event. They chose the tracks, switched between records, and read the crowd's energy. But the real innovation came from the toasters, charismatic MCs who hyped the audience by talking rhythmically over the beats, adding humor, boasting, and improvisation. Legends like Count Machuki, King Stit, and Uroi mastered this art. They weren't just entertainers. They were poets, storytellers, and voices of the people. Their flow, their timing, and their verbal creativity laid the foundation for something entirely new. In the 1970s, a young Jamaican immigrant in the Bronx named Clive Campbell, better known as DJ Kool Herc, took that culture to America. Drawing inspiration from Jamaica's sound system parties, Herc began isolating instrumental breaks from funk records and looping them so dancers could move longer. He brought the Jamaican MC style to New York streets and unknowingly gave birth to hip-hop. Every DJ today, from the biggest names in Ibiza to the underground scenes of Tokyo, owes a part of their craft to Jamaica. The concept of the DJ as a performer, as the center of the party, that was born in Kingston's backyards. So next time you watch a crowd go wild as a DJ drops the beat, remember the sound system, the toasting, the vibe. It all started on this small island that gave the world rhythm, rebellion, and innovation all rolled into one. But Jamaica wasn't done revolutionizing sound, because the next wave of innovation would emerge not from the stage, but from inside the studio, where a few creative minds decided to play with sound in ways no one had ever imagined. Before digital audio workstations, before software plugins and remix competitions, Jamaica had already unlocked the future of music production. And it started with one man, King Tubby. In the late 1960s, Osborne Ruddock, known to the world as King Tubby, ran a small electronics repair shop in Kingston. But Tubby wasn't just fixing radios. He was experimenting with sound. He began manipulating recorded tracks, removing the vocals, and pushing the bass and drums forward. Then, using echo chambers and delay effects, he transformed simple reggae tunes into entirely new sonic landscapes. The result was dub, a genre that was more than just music. It was an experience. Dub stripped songs down to their essence and rebuilt them in ways that felt alive, immersive, and otherworldly. Lee Scratch, Perry soon joined the revolution. Working from his legendary Black Ark studio, Perry turned mixing into a form of performance art. He'd layer effects, reverse tape reels, and even record unconventional sounds, like running water, animal noises, or spoken word, into his tracks. What Tubby and Perry created wasn't just a new sound. It was a new philosophy of music. They proved that the studio itself could be an instrument. Producers became artists, and every recording session became an opportunity for reinvention. This concept that a song could be remixed infinitely reshaped the global music industry. From the dance floors of London to the clubs of New York, the echo of dub influenced hip-hop, techno, drum and bass, and electronic dance music. Even modern genres like lo-fi, house, and trap carry traces of Jamaican dub DNA. If you've ever heard a remix, a DJ set, or even a movie soundtrack with deep bass and reverberating effects, you've heard echoes of Jamaica's genius. Dub was more than a genre. It was the spark that ignited modern remix culture. And while Jamaica transformed global sound, the island was also crafting another kind of global identity, one built not in studios but on stadium tracks. Because Jamaica's final world-changing gift doesn't just make noise. It makes history every time the starter pistol fires. Every 4 years, the world turns its eyes to the Olympics. And almost like clockwork, one small Caribbean island dominates the global stage, Jamaica. From the thunderbolt speed of Usain Bolt to the fierce determination of Shelly-Ann Fraser-Price and the elegance of Elaine Thompson-Herah, Jamaica's athletes have redefined what human speed looks like. For a nation of fewer than 3 million people, their success seems almost impossible. So how does Jamaica keep producing the fastest humans alive? Scientists and coaches have spent years trying to answer that question. And the truth lies in a perfect blend of biology, culture, and national spirit. On the biological side, many Jamaicans of West African descent carry a gene known as ACTN3, often nicknamed the sprint gene. It helps produce a protein found in fast-twitch muscle fibers, responsible for explosive bursts of speed and power. But that alone doesn't explain the phenomenon. Because if genes were the only factor, many countries in West Africa would dominate the track. The difference is Jamaica's culture. On this island, sprinting isn't just a sport, it's a way of life. From a young age, children run barefoot on fields and dirt tracks, racing each other for fun long before they ever see a stadium. Then comes Champs, the inter-secondary school's boys and girls championships, a national event unlike anything else on Earth. Every spring, Tens of thousands of Jamaicans packed the National Stadium in Kingston to cheer for teenage athletes running like lightning. Scouts, coaches, and journalists from around the world watch closely, because this is where future legends are born. Usain Bolt, Johan Blake, Veronica Campbell-Brown, they all started there. Champs isn't just competition, it's national pride in motion. It's where talent meets discipline and where potential turns into destiny. Behind the scenes, brilliant coaches like Stephen Francis and Glenn Mills have refined the art of training sprinters. They blend cutting-edge science with an understanding of psychology, nutrition, and the Jamaican spirit of joy. The results are extraordinary. Athletes who don't just run fast, but carry the weight and pride of an entire nation on their shoulders. When Bolt stretched his arms wide after shattering world records, he wasn't just celebrating personal victory. He was embodying Jamaica's belief that small doesn't mean weak, and humble beginnings don't limit greatness. This tiny island has taught the world that excellence can be engineered, nurtured, and celebrated, all without losing the heart and rhythm that make Jamaica unique. And so, as we look back across these 7 extraordinary inventions, one truth becomes clear. Jamaica's influence reaches far beyond its size. This island's creativity has touched nearly every corner of modern life, from how we travel and vacation, to how we fight for freedom, to how we dance, sing, and even taste our favorite foods. Abe Issa redefined the meaning of relaxation with the all-inclusive resort. Queen Nanny and the Maroons changed how wars are fought. The Smith brothers turned iron rails into pathways of progress. Sir Sloane sweetened the world with chocolate milk. And Jamaica's music, from sound systems to dub, reshaped global culture and gave birth to entire genres. Finally, through its sprinters, Jamaica reminded the world that true greatness doesn't come from size or power. It comes from passion, community, and an unshakable belief in self. Jamaica's story is proof that innovation often grows in unexpected places. Sometimes it's born from struggle, sometimes from joy, but always it comes from people who dare to see the world differently. So, the next time you listen to a remix, book a resort vacation, or cheer for an athlete breaking records, remember, you're witnessing the legacy of an island that has given the world far more than sunshine and reggae. Jamaica is not just a place. It's an idea, one that reminds us that imagination is stronger than limitation, and that genius can rise from anywhere, even the smallest corner of the map. Which of these Jamaican inventions blew your mind the most? Was it the Maroons' military brilliance, the rhythm of the DJs, or the science of speed? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I'd love to hear what surprised you the most. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Jamaica's hidden genius, don't forget to hit the like button, share this video with someone who loves history or music, and subscribe for more eye-opening stories from around the world. Because somewhere out there, another small nation might just be creating the next big idea. And when they do, you'll hear here first.